Hello. For the first time in a few months, I went into a couple of second-hand shops just now, this morning, 20 minutes ago. Oh no, maybe a bit longer than that. And expecting to find at least one thing. I was kind of in the mood to buy, but no, nothing. Really, nothing. The first place I went into is a Salvation Army store, and it's probably one of the largest second-hand op shops, charity shops in my area. It's like a really large building with lots of different stuff. And it was the first place that I went and bought CDs when I first started buying second-hand CDs about 5 years ago. I'd just come back to New Zealand and I was looking and I was kind of surprised how cheap they were and how much stuff they had there that I wanted. They were 50 cents each. And so that particular shop is kind of where I built the basis. I'd say the majority of the CDs that I own are from that single shop. And they were 50 cents. There were some days they were cheaper than 50 cents. There were some days where it was some crazy deal, like 50 cents for one, but if you bought four, you would only pay $1. So basically 25 cents each. And so you're going to come away with like 20 CDs for, I can't work out that maths, but for not very much money. What, $2? No, 10 would be $2.50. So for $5, 20 CDs for $5, you come. And like, I'd say, yeah, a good 50% of my entire collection, hundreds and hundreds of CDs I bought from that shop. And because they had such a huge amount, they had a whole shelving wall of about what, 10 plus meters long, and then it was kind of like, 4 levels high, thousands of CDs there. Of course, most of them are shit, but there was obviously a lot of good stuff as well, and I've got so much stuff. So whenever I go back there now, I'm kind of shocked that it has one little shelf, like probably less than 100 CDs total they have there. I don't know what happened, but it's almost like I've kind of alluded to this before, like the golden age is over. There seemed to be kind of a short period there where there was just a glut of CDs across these secondhand shops, and it was good stuff. And they were just trying to get rid of them for 50 cents, $1, $2 max. And in the last kind of couple of years, it seems almost that people have caught on to that, the shops themselves or other kind of buyers and sellers. And so you don't find the quality or even the stock amount as you used to. But what I did buy was this, a sandwich. Actually doesn't look that good, to be honest. That ham is like worryingly pink. There's a bakery just on that road where I was looking, and it's been there my whole life, or at least my whole memory. So I can probably first remember it from when I was about 5 years old. So about 40 or 39, 40 years, that bakery's been on that road. And I've driven past it how many times, I don't know. And I've always, not like actively, continuously, I wonder what it's like. But I remember when I was a kid wanting to go in there and see what it was like. Anyway, so I thought today, I'm going to go there. Why for all these years have I not? Because it's not as though it's like very close to where I live. And so I went in there and I bought a sandwich for lunch, ham and egg with seemingly some tomato and mayonnaise on baguette, although the baguette feels a little bit soft. I think baguette's supposed to be hard. When I buy a sandwich, I tend to rearrange it, so I'm going to take out half of that ham. There's too much ham in there for my liking. And the other thing I got was this. This is what you guys are watching this channel for. A ham and cheese or bacon and cheese pizza bread. That probably doesn't look very appetizing on camera, but actually it smells quite nice and it actually looks okay. The problem I have is that most bakeries in New Zealand nowadays, and this has probably been true for a long time, are owned by typically Southeast Asian. Like it used to be almost exclusively Vietnamese and Cambodian immigrants who came here in the 70s, obviously kind of escaping the chaos happening in their countries in that period. When they came around in the 70s and the 80s as refugees, and they tend to open up and get into business of bakery, I guess, because there's that, I guess, the French influence in Vietnam left behind, what's that saying? When the British left their colonies, they left roading and railways. When the French left their colonies, they left coffee and baguette. And if you go to Southeast Asia, at least when I was there, and I haven't been there for about 20 years, in places like Cambodia and Vietnam and Laos, you would see they had a lot of kind of French influenced baked items, baguette and things like that. More recently, Chinese as well. I've got into the bakery industry here. And what I find they do is they make these nice things, but then they always do this like sweet glaze. You can see it's kind of shiny. You can see that kind of shininess on it. It's kind of like a gloss. It's because they put this like sugary glaze over it. And I don't know why the hell they do it. It's because it's like almost like they put honey over the top of it. Not quite as sweet as honey, but it always puts me off. I far prefer just the cheese and bacon and kind of maybe some tomato kind of base sauce like a pizza. But so yeah, that's my not particularly healthy, I know, but it's Saturday, and Saturday's kind of my not liking to use this term, but I guess cheat day. I try to avoid white bread where possible, even though it's my number one weakness is white bread. If I had to go to an island and I could only eat one food, if health was not an issue, you didn't have to worry about nutrition, and they said you can only have one food for the rest of your life and one drink. Let's just say water, obviously, but maybe Coke as well. White bread would be it for me. And I don't mean shitty loaf bread. I mean like a well-made, crusty, baked loaf is my absolute weakness. I could sit down and eat loaf after loaf of just plain white bread. I've got a pretty limited palate. I don't really need a lot of taste. Someone's revving their car in my driveway. They don't. But anyway, just so that this isn't a complete waste of time, I picked a CD literally at random from the shelf. I closed my eyes. The first two are things I'd already talked about before, so I picked another one. This is the band The Exponents, and I'd say almost certainly you've never heard of them before. The Exponents are a New Zealand band formed in the early 80s. I think they're first called the Dance Exponents, and then they changed the name just to The Exponents. They are from the South Island, from Christchurch. I think originally actually Timaru, which is a city about an hour and a half south of Christchurch, 2 hours south. Never actually been there, so I'm just kind of thinking in my mind on a map how far Timaru is from Christchurch. And they kind of were relatively successful in New Zealand in the mid to late 80s, and then even more so in the early 90s, at least for my generation, the early 90s. And this is the singles. This is kind of the songs taken from across their career. Now, I know that song there, Victoria, I think that was one of their very early one, maybe even when they were still called Dance Exponents. And that's a song that Jordan Luck is the main singer, I think songwriter as well. So certainly the lyricist. He wrote that about a flatmate of his who was working as a prostitute. And her boyfriend / pimp was not very nice to her. So Jordan wrote a song for her, Victoria, What Do You See in Him? There's actually a movie, well, it won't be on your Netflix, but no, not Netflix. Anyway, they made a kind of a movie biopic about their career in New Zealand, but it's very, it's low budget, and you can tell, if you know what I mean. It just seems, yeah, I don't know how I can probably explain it beyond that. It looks like it's a bit amateurish. The most famous songs are probably Why Does Love Do This To Me? And Who Loves Who the Most? Those two there. But Victoria, I'll Say Goodbye. Whatever Happened to Tracy, Sink Like a Stone, La La Lulu. These are all kind of the singles that I remember being played on the radio over the years. They're not a bad band. It's just kind of, how would you really class it? It's pretty straightforward rock, pop, quite catchy, especially their stuff in the early 90s. It's used a lot in sports stadiums here because it's kind of the very kind of easy to sing along to. Got a lot kind of whoa, whoa, yeah, yeah type lyrics, especially that song. How could love? No, why? How could love do? Is it how could or why could love? Why? Why does love do this to me? They play that at rugby games and stuff, and in stadiums. Like I guess in America, you have the same kind of things. Like at hockey, they play music, and I guess at basketball as well. Maybe every sport, but I know I certainly because I used to watch a lot of NHL hockey, and I know they'd have they'd play songs to kind of get the crowd rocked up, like Seven Nation Army by the White Stripes is a famous one, or other such things. Well, that's used in New Zealand rugby games, and I don't know why. To be honest, it's not actually a song I particularly like. I'm sorry, Why Does Love Do This To Me? But interestingly, the singer, Jordan Luck, who I just said before, that's him there, was just in the news, like literally this week I saw it. He was arrested for drunk driving over the New Year period. He's had past battles with alcoholism. And obviously he's still drinking, but he was arrested and charged. And when you go to court, often you get found out. Like sometimes you can get name suppression in New Zealand. They won't release your name if there's certain kind of reasons why they shouldn't. Like if it affects your family too much, sometimes they'll keep the name secret, but usually they release the name. And if it's a famous person, then it will hit the news. And that's what happened. Not that they're hit in the year 2025, not that he's really a particularly prominent public figure. I'd say a lot of people younger than me wouldn't know him. A lot of people older than me wouldn't know him either. He's in that kind of, like I said, like they're well, it's covered up there, but it says the singles 1981 to 1995. And they're kind of that mid-80s to the mid-90s. If you kind of came of age during that era, you'd probably be familiar with Jordan Luck. But if you're outside that, probably not. So yeah, I got this secondhand, obviously. I wouldn't buy it new. You can see it's got the old white jewel case base, still in good condition there. I can't remember, but I would guess I paid between 50 cents and $1 for this. In saying that, even though I was not the hugest Exponents fans, that kind of for me, Exponents music is this kind of music that was always there, kind of background music. It's kind of like part of the cultural fabric. There's a few artists like that in New Zealand, Dave Dobbin, Herbs, a few others. It's not really matter whether you like them or don't like them. They're just kind of there. Their music is just there. It's used so ubiquitously that you kind of can't escape it. But I remember there was a period there where they became quite popular among people in my age group, or at least in my friend group. I remember one guy actually bought this CD. One of my friends at the time, he owned this CD. But I was never at that level of fandom at all. So anyway, we'll leave it there, just a kind of shortish one, because I haven't made a video for a long time. And I want to, but I feel there's not really much to talk about. Anyway, I'm going to eat some of that at least. And let's hope it's good. You'll never know if it's good or bad. Yeah, actually, we'll leave it there. All right, thank you for watching. Bye-bye.